All right, welcome to the show, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with today's virtual field trip. I'm GOB. You're watching Learn Around the World's Geo Show. If you've never been a participant on one of our Learn Around the World virtual field trips, this is an interactive experience. So for everyone involved today, if you're on camera with us, great. If you're off camera with us, fantastic. You can still send in your questions. You can do that two ways. Use the Q&A app built right into your Zoom window. Or if you are a Twitter user, teachers, then you can use the hashtag GeoShow. But please only use the hashtag, as I am not following my Twitter handle. Sometimes people send them there. I do not see those questions. So if you choose to use Twitter, only use this hashtag GeoShow. We also use Kahoot on our virtual field trips for interactive survey and quiz questions. If you win today's quiz at the end of the show, you'll get a postcard from me, GOB, from the Learn Around the World studio. Today's game pin is 833890. That pin number is located in your chat box, teachers. You can play on any web browser at kahoot.it. Also, if you stump me on any questions, make sure you check in to Flipgrid later on the week, and I will research and post those answers. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. But first, I want to know from all of you explorers, are you guys ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it. All right. Welcome to the Geo Show. Today's topic is Nyepi. Happy New Year, everyone. It is Balinese New Year. We're going to talk all about New Year and how they celebrate it in Bali. Okay, so we're kicking off today's show with our first survey question. Again, if you go to kahoot.it, put in today's game pin, which is 833890, you'll be linked right up to our survey and quiz questions. Now, don't worry, our first couple questions are not worth points. They're survey questions. So if you're not logged in yet, that's okay. How we use Kahoot here on the Geo Show is you only get 10 seconds to answer, so not a lot of time. And you must look up at the screen to see the questions and answers. So if you all see my blue Kahoot screen right now, this is where you're going to see the questions and answers. So don't look right down at your devices if you are playing as one-to-one for our classrooms that have devices. Okay, again, that game pin is 833890. We're going to go ahead and launch today's first survey question because the show must go on. And our first question today is, what country is Bali in? We are going to Bali on our virtual field trip, but what country is Bali in? Is it red Indonesia, blue the Philippines, yellow Australia, or green India? All right, so if you said red Indonesia, you are correct. That is where Bali is located. Now, the Geo Show is a geography-based show, so location matters, explorers. So if you don't know quite where Bali and/or Indonesia is located, well, let's talk about that really quickly. So on the Geo Show, we like to say location matters. So let's find out. Let's go ahead and spin our big blue ball that we're living on around. We're going to the other side of the world, so I hope everyone has their virtual passports today. We're going to go ahead and freeze it right here from pretty far out because Indonesia is spread out. Okay, guys? So if you don't, or if you haven't been aware of this before, Indonesia is actually made up of many islands. Many different islands. In fact, please, if you are on camera with us, please do not share your screens. Thank you. Please unshare your screen. Mrs. Tompkins? Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna have to. Okay, there you go. Please don't do that again. Thank you. All right, so when we look back at our location that we're talking about here, Indonesia is made up of 17,000 islands, guys. Yep, you heard that correctly. 17,000 islands makes up the country of Indonesia. Now, most of these islands are small, uninhabited islands, but many of them, I should say, are inhabited. In fact, so many people live in Indonesia. It's the fourth largest country in the world as far as population goes, guys. So that's only behind China, India, and the USA. Then we have Indonesia that comes in fourth place. All of these people speak lots of different kinds of languages. In fact, there are over 700 languages spoken in the country of Indonesia. Yes, you heard that correctly. Over 700 languages. And most of the people, we're going to talk about religion a lot today. Indonesia is actually the largest Islamic country in the world. Many people think that's somewhere up in the Middle East up that way, but no, it is not. It's actually right here in Indonesia, has more Muslims than any other country in the world. Okay, so we're going to zoom in a little bit closer because we are only going to visit one of those 17,000 islands today. We're going to visit Bali, but I will talk about Java for a little bit. So just to show you which one Java is the main island. So it's this blue island right here. And it's not the largest as far as land goes, but it's the largest as far as most people or more people live on Java than any of the other islands. And Jakarta, right here on the west end, this is the capital of Indonesia. But we're talking about Bali today. And Bali is the island I have highlighted in orange to the east of Java. And as we zoom in a little bit closer, Bali has a lot of people on the small island. So about 4.2 million people live on Bali. And this is where we're going to be visiting today for our virtual field trip. We're going to be talking about their new year that they celebrate in Bali. It just happened this past weekend. And we'll be talking about how they celebrate that important holiday in Bali. All right, before we get started, I do want to introduce our classroom guests that we have along with our virtual field trip today. First up, we have Mrs. Lopez's third graders from Monterrey, Mexico. Welcome to the show, guys. All right, they are pumped up in Monterrey. And do you guys have any fun facts? I know you guys were added last minute. Do you have any fun facts about Indonesia you would like to share? Okay, go for it. Speak real loud into the camera.
Loud. Okay, fun fact. 1 million liters of fuel are saved in silent days.
1 million what?
Liters.
All right. Okay, so great. And then next classroom we have with us today is Mrs. Tompkins' 4th and 5th graders from Anaheim, California. Welcome to the show, guys. All right, they are pumped up. Okay, go for it.
The Komodo dragon was founded in Indonesia.
All right, so Komodo dragons, the only country in the world that they're found is in Indonesia. So a little bit further east to where we're going to be at in Bali today. And big old shout out and thank you to our friends over in Mrs. Tompkins' classroom. In-N-Out Burger, shout out, do it, animal style. All right, next we have Mrs. Remo's 5th graders from Independence, Missouri. Welcome to the show, guys. All right, and do we have any fun facts from Missouri today?
Hi, my name is Zayla, and my fun fact is nobody is allowed to surf at that place.
To surf?
Yeah.
On that day.
Yeah, on the Saturday.
Right. So we're going to learn about this past Saturday. It's called Nyepi Day. So, right. So Bali is a famous place to go to if you enjoy surfing. And we'll talk about why you can't surf. There's many things you can't do outside on Nyepi Day. We'll talk about that. Thank you for all of your research explorers. We love learning from all of you, spread out all around the U.S. and Mexico today. We're going to go ahead and jump right into our virtual field trip and start talking about the new year and how it's celebrated. And welcome to all of the classrooms that are watching off of camera today as well. So we're kicking off today's show talking about the new year. How is it celebrated? We just heard a reference to this past Saturday. So if we look at it here, so there's 4 main celebration days. It happens over about a 3 to 4 day period. And so it starts off with a water festival. And this year, Nyepi was on March 17th, which was Saturday. So Friday was the Uga Uga parades was at Friday night, March 16th, and March 15th was the water festival. Now, or water ritual, I should say. Now, this happens at a different time every year. Last year, Nyepi was on March 28th. Why isn't it on a different day every year? Well, that's because they follow the lunar calendar or the lunar cycle. So that's the cycle of the moon. The moon goes around the earth every 28.5 or so days. I forget the point number, but every 28 days or so, there's a new moon. And so they're following the lunar calendar, not the calendar that most people follow as far as in businesses and schools, especially in the Western world. Okay, second day we have Uga Uga. We're going to mainly focus on here. That's what we're going to see a lot of today is from the nighttime celebrations during Uga Uga. And that's because on Nyepi, there's not a lot to see in Indonesia. Now, this is the most important day because it's called a Day of Silence. It happened on March 17th, and this year is kicked off the year of 1940 in Bali. So the traditional year in Bali is a different year as well. And so Nyepi is a day of silence. So that means you can't leave your home. You can't, if you're a tourist there, you're not supposed to leave your hotel. You're not supposed to use electricity. It's a day of meditation. It's a day of no eating, of fasting. So it's a complete day of silence. And we'll bring up more about Nyepi after we see what happens before Nyepi first. And then actual New Year starts the next day. So let's go down on the ground in Bali. So as I said, 2 days before Nyepi, the whole thing kicks off with a water ritual. You'll see many communities coming from inland down to the coast. And that's what we see here. We're actually headed inland. We're going to celebrate with our virtual field trip today in Ubud. So for any teachers or older students out there that's read Eat, Pray, Love, that's where the main character went to in their stop in Bali. And so here in Ubud, we're seeing final preparations before the festivities of Uga Uga. So these are called Uga Ugas. So these are monsters that are built. These are statues. They're constructed of styrofoam, wires, grasses, newspaper, really a lot of light materials. And they're kind of paper mache, so it's kind of like making a piñata, for example. So once they create the statue, and then they paint it very elaborate colors. You can see that some of them are pretty colorful. We'll see some up close, but I want to point out right here is each of them are mounted on a base, and some of the bases are quite large, and some of them actually are wired up with lighting. So you see these floodlights. That's because the parade happens at nighttime after the sun goes down. When you look inside of the base, you need to have a way to power these lights. So there's generators inside of these larger Uga Ugas. So it makes it heavier. Now, why do you care if it's heavy or not? Well, because all of these are carried by hand when they parade them around the city in the processions. So as we get to look, this is one community's set of Uga Ugas. So most of the surrounding communities and in the in-city neighborhoods, they all make their own sets of Uga Ugas, and there's actually a competition. So there's winners to these. There's kind of a judging contest for some of these in some communities. If we look at this one really close, this green one on the left, you can kind of get a look at them. So many of these are traditional, come from traditional Balinese stories, characters in those traditional stories. And we talked about they are not on trailers, they're not on wheels. These are carried around by hands, and they're carried around on bamboo poles. So they kind of tie these together. So each one of these squares will have a person standing inside of them. Depends on the size of the Uga Uga. It could be anywhere between 4 or 5 people carrying it, all the way up to 20, 25 people carrying the larger ones, the more heavy ones. All right, so let's talk about what happens that day before Nyepi. So Nyepi is a day of silence. And so Nyepi is a day when God is returning to Earth, or returning to Bali, I should say. So God is coming down to Bali on Nyepi Day. That's the day of silence, the day after today that we are at on our virtual field trip. And so what's going to happen is part of the whole idea of the Uga Uga parade is to clean the island of evil spirits, okay? And the way you do this is you first clean out your homes. So let's watch a family how they clean out their home. So here you're going to see lots of pots and pans being banged together. These bamboo poles are common. So what you do as a family is you walk around your home, your complex, or your compound. So many of the homes have like outdoor courtyards, but they have these surrounding walls. So it's kind of a compound. And so what you do is you walk all around inside, outside, inside of your compound, and you drive out all of the evil spirits into the streets. And then at nighttime, when the Uga Ugas are marched down the streets, then it cleans off the island, okay? And so what we're doing is kind of like, even in a physical way, when you clean up, you have visitors coming over to your home and your parents tell you to clean up your things, your toys that are on the floor, right? To make it nice and clean. Well, same thing, but they're doing this in a spiritual context. So instead of picking up trash, which hopefully you're picking up trash, but they're also cleaning out all the evil spirits in preparation for Nyepi, the day that God comes to Bali. That's God's day. All right, so you see this in the late afternoon is when everyone cleans out their homes, and then communities, all the surrounding communities around this city, Ubud, start to march in their Uga Ugas, and everyone's going to meet in the central park of Ubud. Okay. A lot of the kids get involved earlier in the day. The older, like teenagers and adults, are going to be carrying the Uga Ugas during the parades at nighttime, at least the larger ones. But they'll let all the little kids bring them. You'll notice that they're all boys. So the girls don't really take a part in carrying the Uga Ugas. They take a part in the storytelling and singing and dancing, some that we'll see later on. This is another community that is marching or parading their Uga Ugas towards Central Park, which is actually behind us right now in this particular town. This is the main intersection. So once the sun goes down, everyone's going to come back to the intersection that we're in right now. This is where the main festivities happen at nighttime. You'll notice most of the different communities, they have color matching shirts. It kind of signifies what community, what neighborhood they're from, I guess is probably a better word. Some of the instruments, you'll notice there's a lot of percussion. There are some plucking instruments. There are some like xylophone type instruments. All of these different types of instruments together, the set of them together, they're called gamelans. Now, gamelans traditionally would be a set of instruments or set of traditional orchestra is another word you could use. But here in Bali, they're called gamelans. And so that would be traditionally a village would own one set, or traditionally, I should say, multiple villages would own one set. So they would kind of share one set. Now, often people I want to know, like, what are the effects of tourism, right? Well, one of the effects of tourism in Bali is that most of the villages can afford their own gamelan sets today, because lots of people come to Bali. We heard in our fun facts about surfers. So it's a huge surfing destination. It's a huge people that read books like Eat, Pray, Love want to come to this location. So there's all kinds of reasons why Bali is so popular internationally. It's a beautiful tropical island, and then obviously events such as this. Now, it also comes with a negative side effect. I don't know if anyone noticed, when the family was scaring out their evil spirits, people are in their faces taking pictures. Can you imagine, guys, being at home, like just cutting grass or doing normal chores, day-to-day chores, and people are just taking pictures of you the whole time? I think it would be kind of weird for me personally, but that's what the people in Bali have to kind of put up with, because they have such a unique look. If you notice the sarongs that they wear, it is such a beautiful place. So here, one of the islands, so coming back to the procession and marching the Uga-Ugas around, not only do you have to carry these things, but sometimes they're so big, like this one here, that someone's job is to, or multiple people's jobs, there's actually one down here as well. So the two people are going to each side of the power lines, and they're actually pushing the power line up high so the Uga-Uga will actually fit under it. How wild is that? Now, I got this question yesterday. Don't worry, they're bamboo poles, so they're not conductors of electricity. So it's safe for them to lift them up that way. So once everyone brings all the neighborhoods and surrounding communities, they bring their Uga-Ugas to the ball field or the park that's right in town. They line them up and everyone walks around, and you kind of look what the other communities made, and you take pictures and selfies with the ones that you helped make. So it's kind of like if you've ever been in a homecoming parade or anything like that, right? You would take pictures with your float. Same idea here. Now at nighttime, once the sun goes down, then the lights come on these things, and then they start marching them to the center, to the intersection that I pointed out earlier. And this is where they tell stories that are associated with their Uga-Ugas. They dance them around, and they're going to be judged on. Now, you need to get your seat early if you want a place to sit down. So many people come here. It's not the standing and sitting room is at a premium.
Lihatlah betapa miris, meringis, bumi meleleh.
So if you're wondering what roles do the ladies and the girls play in this celebration, well, here you can see them dancing. They're part of the storytelling and singing. Once they dance these large things around, what they'll do is they kind of rock them back and forth as well. You can see all the people here, they're holding the bamboo poles high above their head, while the people off of camera right now are holding it down low. That gives it the effect of going back and forth and dancing around. Why is this person up on the Uga-Uga right here? Well, they had a malfunction, and their Uga-Uga was actually falling over, and he jumped up there to help hold it up so it didn't fall completely off while they're dancing it during the competition around. And so if it wasn't heavy before him, it was definitely heavier after. All right, so that's the whole night of Uga Uga. So there's big celebrations going out. Traditionally, at this point, the Uga Ugas are taken to one of the local cemeteries, and they are actually burned. So the idea is you scared away all the evil spirits, and you burn these evil, the effigies is what they are, and then you burn them. But not all the time. Sometimes they keep them out in front of the temples for people to see for the next coming weeks, and we'll see what some of the ones look like after a night of Uga Uga. They kind of break apart a little bit. But this is a gentleman. He's a tour guide in Indonesia. He's going to tell us really quickly what is Nyepi, the day that comes after. It starts at 6 a.m., would have been this past Saturday, and it lasts for 24 hours.
Nyepi?
Nyepi.
And that's the Hindu New Year.
Hindu New Year, right? Yeah.
And what happens with that celebration?
And Nyepi Day, all Hindu people just stay at home. They're not allowed to work, to go out of the house, and it's kind of day of silence.
All right, so it is a day of silence. And as I mentioned earlier, it is a day where you're not allowed to, if you are local, so most Balinese people, you're not allowed to turn on the lights. You're not allowed to, it's a day of fasting, so you're not eating during that day. I've gotten a question a lot this week. What do they eat on Nyepi? Nothing. You're fasting. You're not allowed to go out of your house. And this applies to all tourists. The airport shut down. The only vehicles that are allowed to go is if there's an emergency. Obviously, if there's someone needs to go to a hospital, the ambulance they're allowed to go and drive on Nyepi Day, but no one else is. And but they do allow tourists that are there. You are allowed to use electricity, but you must stay inside the hotel or inside of your hotel room, depending on where you are staying at. So everyone participates if you are participating in the religious ceremonies or not. Okay. And when we look at, just to show you a couple pictures, we're going to open up the floor for some questions here in a minute. So if you're not on camera with us today, make sure you start typing those in and sending them into the Q&A app or to hashtag GEOshow. So again, they put the week leading up or weeks leading up, they're working and designing these Uga Ugas for their communities. The day before, this is at one of the temples in Ubud, so people are bringing offerings. We'll learn more about the offerings here in a few minutes here in Bali. And often there are small offerings, but for the Uga Uga or Nyepi offerings, these are typically larger baskets that are being offered during these times. Now, Uga Ugas, most of them are going to be burned the night after the parades. However, not all of them. Sometimes they keep them around and for a little bit longer. So you can see here, there's newspapers, there's reed grasses, there's wire that shape these things or hold the shape. As you look up closer, you can see those newspapers sticking through. All right, and that is an overview of the celebrations that happened in and around New Year right here in Indonesia. Okay, so Mrs. Lancaster's classroom wants to know, do they make up the stories or are they real? Well, they've been made up at some point. Think of all religions. All religions have stories. These stories have been around for a long, long time. Some of them some of the stories are traditional Balinese stories, and some of them get traced back to India. We'll learn why India here in just a minute of why some of those stories get traced back to there. Let's go first this time to Missouri. Do you guys have a question for us?
Sorry.
All right, we're going to go to Mrs. Tompkins' classroom next if you want to go ahead and send your person up. Okay, go for it.
Why doesn't the Tanganan
Village. The Tanganan Village? I don't know how you say it. Tenganan.
What was the question about this village?
We read that was the one village that does not participate.
Oh, that does not participate. Okay, so great. So I'll kind of give it away now, but I was going to save it for one of our questions. So if you heard the tour guide talking earlier, he mentioned the Hindu religion. So most people in Bali, about 83 to 84% of the people in Bali are officially Hindu. But we'll talk about it. It's a little bit different. It's a kind of a special form of Hindu. But anyways, not everyone there follows the Hindu religion. So some people follow other religions there. There are Christians that live in Bali. There are obviously Muslims, because Indonesia is the largest Islamic country in the world. So there's a lot of Islam followers in Bali as well. So yes, and not 100% of the people follow. But during Nyepi, you have to, if you follow the religion or not, you have to deal with Nyepi, because the airport is shut down. Boat ferries are shut down. Everything is shut down during Nyepi. Okay, let's go over to Anaheim. Go for it.
Hi, my name is Lena, and my question is, what kind of material do they use in Bali to make the traditional clothing?
The traditional clothing. So if you notice well, maybe I'll play something in a few minutes, but traditionally they wear sarongs, and that's other places I notice around Indonesia as well, not just in Bali. So if you notice the men, they were wearing these skirt-looking things. These are sarongs that you wrap around your waist. So traditionally everyone wore sarongs, men and women, and traditionally they did not wear tops. It's a tropical island, men and women, so most people wore just the sarongs around. Today people wear shirts, and then the men wear a head wrapping as well. I know some of them look like silk. I'm not completely 100% positive what materials they make out of. They make their sarongs and the headpieces out of. I will see if I can find that out for you though, and post it over to Flipgrid. Let's go over to Mrs. Lopez's classroom. Do you guys have a question for us?
Hi, my name is Gerardo, and my question is, what is the name of the god they celebrate?
On which day?
What is the name of the god they celebrate?
Oh, okay. So there's many gods. So in the Hindu religion, well, it's kind of complicated because there's many forms that God takes. And in the Hindus, speaking of traditional Hindu, depending on what style of Hinduism you follow, in some of those styles, there's technically one god, but one god takes many different forms. You may have heard of Shiva, Brahma, or Vishnu. So these are the Trinity gods in the Hindu religion. These are the three main gods, but there are hundreds of gods, but these are all just different forms of God. Basically, it's like different masks of gods. But also in Bali has its own form of Hinduism. So there's a lot of traditional things that people are worshiping in Bali, and one of those is water, which we're going to learn about. So water is hugely important to the Balinese people. That was their first religion, was the religion of water, before Hinduism even came to Bali. Great question there. Also, we have coming in from our classroom, sending in questions. Are boys allowed to dance and sing with the girls? I assume you mean like in the presentations. The only ones I saw were the women performing it. I did not. Most of it was the Uggas dancing around that I noticed. So I don't know a whole lot about their different dance traditions. Of the ceremonies that I have seen that did not have to do with Nyepi or the New Year, yes, it's a combination of both men and women. Let's see, coming from Shaw's classroom, do all of the Uggas come with stories? So it looks, I've seen pictures of more recent Uggas that aren't exactly traditional Balinese stories. So for instance, I've seen Uggas made for Medusa. So Medusa has to do with Greek mythology. And so today there's, people make them for different reasons, but yeah, most of them have to do with Balinese or Hindu stories coming from India. Okay, Mrs. Murray's classroom wants to know how many statues did they put up? I saw just in this one town of, speaking of just the Uga Ugas, in just this one town, small town, there were probably, oh gosh, I don't even know, just counting off my head, probably at least 30 or so. But this is one of the bigger, some of the smaller villages may only have a handful, maybe 1, 2, 3 Uga Ugas, the really small villages. They may only have 2 that they march around their little village that night before they burn them. This is a bigger one because local communities that are surrounding Ubud come in. It's a bigger celebration that happens right here. All right, great questions coming in. Let's go, since we've been talking about it already, let's go and learn about the religion that is practiced in Bali, because it is really unique and it's kind of a blend of many different things, okay? Many different things, which brings us to our next survey question. Hopefully, you all should know the answer by now. Okay, so our next survey question coming in is going to be, what is the main religion in Bali? Okay, is it red Buddhism, blue Hinduism, yellow animism, or green Balinese Hinduism? Okay, so I'm glad some of you kind of connected the dots here. So officially, the official religion is Hindu on Bali, but most people that study Bali and the religion there kind of coined the terms Balinese Hinduism, because it's very different than just Hinduism, because it's a mix of many different religions. And to learn about that, we're going to talk to a man that is more qualified to speak about religion in Bali than I am. But just to give you guys a base of vocabulary words that you're going to hear with our next speaker coming up, which is Mr. Oka. So first is animism. Animism is the idea that everything has a soul. So this is a very, very old type of religious practice that has happened all over the world at some point. This is the idea that the tree has a soul, or that the rock has a soul. The kitty cat in your house has its own soul. So everything has its own soul, right? So that's the idea of animism. Hinduism and Buddhism, these are both major religions today, and both of them were born in India and made their way over to Bali. And what we're going to talk about today is that blend of all of these. All 3 of those is a mix of these religions called Balinese Hinduism. All right, so when we look at Java and Bali right beside each other, today Java is predominantly Islamic and Bali is predominantly Hindu, or Balinese Hinduism is what we're going to use today for our talk. And many of those religions have come over via trade at some point. The 2 that we're going to focus that came to Bali came out of India. So Buddhism and Hinduism, both of those religions started in India, and that's how they got over to first Java and then Bali. So before Islam took hold in Java, it was mainly Buddhist and Hindu, and many of those people and worshipers migrated over to Bali when Islam came over to Java. And today it's kind of a mix of the traditional animism that was worshipped in Bali since before anyone wrote anything down, so just forever, that people can think of, and then later mixed with Hinduism and Buddhism. All right, so this man is named Mr. Oka. He's going to introduce to us the religion that's practiced in Bali.
My name is Ida Bagusoka Genijaya. That's my full name. People call me Gosoka.
Technology is great when it works. Let's try that again. Okay, there we go.
My name is Ida Bagusoka Genijaya. That's my full name. People call me Gosoka or Oka. I'm from Mas. It's a wood carving village, the first wood carving village in Bali. What we believe in Bali, their first god is their parents. It's about ancestor. You wouldn't be here without your father. Your father wouldn't be here without your grandfather. Your grandfather wouldn't be here without your great-grandfather.
Now, earlier you said a word that I'm sure some people may not know, animism.
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 Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah, it's about believing, everything what you see have a soul as a spirit. Even the stone, the tree, there's a spirit in there.
And this was the traditional Balinese.
Oh yeah, in the old days.
Faith.
Yeah, in the old days. Yeah.
And so now it's very much the base of
a mixed
Hindu
collaboration
and
with Buddhist, Hindu and Buddhist, not
Hindu,
just Hindu,
Buddhist,
and any
and
other, any other religion.
So it's like this own thing.
Yeah, because for example, animism is about everything have a living thing, tree, stone, everything is respect of that. But why Hinduism blend very well and Buddhism blend very well in Bali? Because it's so close to that root.
Yeah, everything is a one.
Yeah, in one, yeah.
Buddhism's very much.
Yeah, very much.
And I don't want to call it Hinduism now because it's so many different
during
things.
Dutch colony, before this, we call it Agama Tirtha. The religion in Bali is about water, holy water. That's where the first temple in Bali, call it Pura Tirtha. Tirtha means holy water. That's what our first religion is. It's about founding the water. Yeah. Because this water is life. It's about water, this religion. But until the independent, after the Dutch, colony things and the government, we have to choose 5 other major religion they have. And then they say, okay, you are Hindu. And then Balinese say, yeah, we Hindu Balis. Okay, thank you very much. So we based on Hindu Siwa Buddha, Hinduism and Buddhism mixed together.
Wow. All right, so it's really a mix of several different things. So again, this is Mr. Oka. Mr. Oka is a man that he came and he lived in San Francisco for a while, and so he had some background in living in the U.S. But he comes from a family, traditionally one of the first Brahmin families that came over from India to Indonesia. His family traces back to. So he's a very important person, like a religious leader in his community. So so he definitely is someone great to talk to about this. So coming in, we have how can water be a religion? The Agama Tilta, so water is life. So think about anything as a religion. So different religions, no matter what religions are practiced in your local home areas or that your parents, different kinds of religions have been practiced all over the world. If you want to, I could worship this pencil if I wanted to. That would be my religion, and I could do that. So people have different gods, and so when we talk about really before organized religions like Christianity or really any of the Abrahamic religions, so Christians, Jews, and Islam, they all came from the same religion branch, right? And then no matter what religion you look at around the world, most people, if you go back far enough, they were worshiping natural things. They were worshiping if it's fire or water, things we didn't understand at that point. And so if you go back far enough, anywhere around the world, at some point, I bet you some local people worshipped the water, because water is life, right? So without water, without rain, we don't get food, we don't get our crops. So it's something that is extremely important. And let's go ahead and let's start over in Mrs. Lopez's classroom. Do you guys have a question for us?
Do you have a question? Yes. What? Question. Can we have a fun fact?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, come on. Israel. Step on the camera. Okay, right there. Fuerte. Fun fact. During this season, nobody understands what they say. Come on, somebody else. Come on.
All right, we'll come back to you in a second. Let's go over to Mrs. Tompkins' classroom. Then we're going to go over to Mrs. Remel's classroom. I do want to give a shout out, random shout out, going to Hartshorn Elementary in New Jersey. Shout out to everyone watching from New Jersey. Okay, go for it.
What do Indonesian people eat for traditional holidays?
Right. So on the actual day of Nyepi, it's nothing. They're fasting in Bali. And then but other holidays are going to be important foods. Rice is an important part of the cuisine in Indonesia. I know at some of their holidays, they make these kind of rice cakes, and they'll wrap them in banana leaves. So you make them a couple of days beforehand. And there's satés. So they're basically skewers, meat skewers are popular in Indonesia. Duck, chicken, these pork dishes as well, but rice is obviously a main staple there. Let's go over to Missouri. Do I have a question?
Yes. What do you do if it rains?
If it rains?
Yeah.
During
Like one of the parades or the ceremonies.
I don't know. I was only there for one, and it wasn't raining. I imagine they keep going with it, and so in Bali or in this area of the world, they're typically. I mean, you can have isolated storms, but there's typically your seasons are branched off into two seasons. You have a hot and wet season and a hot and a rainy season. So you typically, they're called dry seasons and wet seasons. So during wet seasons are times when there's rain almost daily. And then during dry seasons, you have huge stretches without much rain at all. There was no rain when I was there during these festivities, so I can't tell you if there's any backup rainy day plans for that. All right, and our next shout outs is going to Gentry Primary School down in North Carolina. Big shout out to you guys. So we are going to, I just want to show a couple extra things. One is the offerings that I was talking about. We saw them put them in the temples. So these offerings are given almost everywhere. So in front of people's homes, you'll find them on the sidewalks, by gardens. So what are these offerings? What is this offering business all about?
Every day we cook at home. We offer rice to everywhere, put every corner of the building. That's for the animal, for ant, bird, thing. So we are very territorial. Killing is not a good thing. But we ask for that space for us, for you build a home. And then that's where you put offering everywhere, and then ants come. Well, it's so fun as long as that when they come, you go home, you kill them or you spray them. But nobody teach you, kill is good. But where you belong, that's who you are, that's our nature. So the thing is very simple, right? And then there's an offering on top of building. I think it's just gratitude and thank you. Every home, villages, community are so different offering. This is how you love to present it. So very simple way. If you give apple, you offer apple, you get apple back. Simple. And then you creativity, you build creativity, beautiful offering. That's what you get back.
Okay.
It's very simple.
So
yeah.
So it's up to you.
Yeah, it's up to you.
And you offer what you hope to receive in return.
Yeah.
So as a home, if we want to feed our children, then we offer food to get food back.
Yeah. And because what you give, that's what you get,
So when you give your offerings, it's more from the traditional Balinese, not from like Hinduism?
Yeah, very much from Bali, because it's nothing like this in India or anywhere else. Yeah.
And one thing I've noticed, so whatever you decide to offer, food, flowers, whatever. So would flowers represent beauty?
Okay, no. Flower represents spirit, because spirit, it flowers like a butterfly. They spread beauty. But flower don't grow. It grow every day, but they die very quick. The spirit is like that. You can't hold them for a very long time. You can feel them and enjoy them for a while. Yeah, food is part of the thing. Either for animal, for you offer food, you eat. But flower is you offer to the spirit. Yeah, but emptiness is to the God, to unknown. So that's why we pray empty first and then flower. That's for the spirit. Yeah, the rest for the offering is what you offer and then you eat there. Simple way is, this is island life. It's the only way to make a party. So we make party for everything, for little thing, for anything. This is part of the island. This is the style of the island life. We don't go anywhere. We're surrounded by water. We entertain ourselves to be creative. That's become the culture. This culture become, way of life. This way of life become, unknown now, and then, you become focused. It's become benefit. And these days, tourism, right? So, but before then, it's just one way to make a party.
Yeah.
It's all about celebration. Balinese are party all the time.
Bringing people together.
Yes. Yeah. It's all community. It's so simple, so simple.
When the water, is that water?
Yeah, holy water. Yeah.
It's holy water.
Yeah.
And so it's blessed?
Yeah, blessed because you say something. You're so beautiful, you're so good, you know.
All right. So basically, in a nutshell, is you give what you want to receive in return. So this is people walking into a temple, giving offerings there. You find these offerings on the edge of gardens, on sidewalks in front of homes. And so it would be when you go to a market, you would be get preparations for your offering givings that you're going to be doing for the coming up week. So just like any other thing you would buy from the grocery store or market, you're going to pick up your flowers and your little baskets that you're going to make your offerings out of. Right here's a great example next to a rice field. So if in a rice field, you want to get lots of rice out of, so you would give rice in your offering. And so often you see these little structures that are near people's homes or gardens or fields like this. These are designed to put offerings in. And again, they can have anything. Here's one that's like on a home. So near the in the like bed and breakfast that I was staying at, this is the right on the corner of their little courtyard. This is where they would give their offerings in that sector of the home. So again, here rice being given out. All right, so we're going to jump right into our Geo quiz. So we're going to, for all of our classrooms that need to go ahead and head on out for the day, I'm going to stick on for afterwards. So if you still have questions, I can show you some more material from that is involved with this religion and during these celebrations. If you have time to stick around, if not, have a great day. We're going to go ahead and jump right into it. So every question will be worth points from here on out. So make sure you answer quickly. The more points you will be awarded. What country is Bali in? Is it red, India, blue, the Philippines, yellow, Australia, or green, Indonesia? All right, Indonesia, great job. Mighty Panda jumps out to the lead. What type of holiday is Nyepi? Is it red, an Independence Day, blue, a New Year celebration, yellow, a harvest celebration, or green, a Mother's Day celebration? All right, it is a New Year, Agent Dolphin. All right, officially, what religion is most people following? Are they red, Muslims, blue, Hindu, yellow, Buddhists, or green, Christians? All right, Hindu. Most people are Hindu on Bali. So if you answered red, anywhere else in Indonesia, you would be correct, but not on Bali. All right, great job. Wise Wolf takes the lead. Nyepi is a day of red celebrations or blue silence. Blue is a day of silence. All right, last question. Make it count. Agent Dolphin is in the lead. The giant statues that are carried around the night before Nyepi are called red, piñatas, blue, ugga-uggas, yellow, Nyepi statues, or green, Bali monsters. All right, ugga-uggas. All right, and today's winner is dun, 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 Wise Wolf. All right, great job, Wise Wolf. Virtual high five to you. Boom. If you are Wise Wolf's teacher, that's a tongue twister. Make sure you send me your school address to learnaroundtheworld.com/prize. This is the only place I accept your addresses. Please do not email or put it in your chat box. Please go ahead and put it in this Google form at learnaroundtheworld.com/prize. For everyone else, if you have to head out, have a fantastic day. If you have time to stick around and keep asking questions, keep sending them in. We're going to jump right into it. First up, Shaw's classroom wants to know what moon phase is Nyepi during? It's during the new moon. During the new moon. Let's see, how heavy are the ugga-uggas? Depends on how big it is or how large it is. I would say it's going to go anywhere between probably just under 100 pounds to hundreds of pounds, depending if it has a generator on it. I personally did not carry one of these around, so I cannot speak from experience, only what I am guesstimating from the bases constructed out of wood with a generator and the actual Uga Uga itself, which is mostly either styrofoam or newspaper, light materials, but all of that added up together can be quite a bit. Great. Are tourists allowed to eat on Nyepi? Yes, tourists are allowed to eat. You're allowed to use electricity. Depends sometimes. So they have what's known as the tourist police and religious police. So they are the community members. They walk around and make sure everyone is observing Nyepi properly. Sometimes they'll come up to your room if you're too loud, like if they're walking by, especially if you are staying in a more rural place, and they'll ask you to close your curtains so the lights aren't shining through the window and to be quiet. But yeah, no one comes around, knocks on the door and says, no talking or anything like that. So, many of these hotels, especially in the larger towns near the coast where most of the tourists go, they'll have like parties kind of in the hotels. So they kind of make it a fun event. All right, let's go over to Anaheim. You guys have a question for us?
I actually have a fun fact.
Okay, go for it.
In Mexico, they use the orange flowers that they showed on the screen.
Okay, for Dia de los Muertos?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool, awesome. And did we have someone lined up right behind you? Did I see someone?
Yes, that was me.
Okay, go for it.
Why do they burn the Ooga Oogas? Like, isn't that a waste of like paper or whatever they use? Isn't that a waste?
Well, yeah, if you want to look at it like that. So it's traditional, as in it's kind of like you're scaring away the evil spirits, and it may collect bad energy itself, but then you burn that, and then traditionally you would put those ashes out to sea. So you cleanse the island, you get all that bad stuff out of here. Now, here's an interesting fun fact. Another classroom shared with me 2 days ago on the show. I did not know this. It makes complete sense now. So if we really want to compare about waste, how about this, guys? I need to go look up the statistic myself, but there is a massive amount of carbon emission reduction during the day of Nyepi. Think about it, an island full of 4.2 million people. There's no driving cars, no using the tourists use electricity, but most of the people don't use electricity. So we can say that these are small wastes, but in actuality, they are wasting far less than anyone else on the planet during this holiday because they're not using electricity, they're not driving, their emissions are down. You know how like we do the hour for the Earth on Earth Day? You guys know how you do that? You're supposed to take an hour, or if you choose to, you can do it for an hour, everyone not to use electricity. Well, this is for 24 hours. So how cool. Can you imagine if we got the entire planet for one whole day for 24 hours not to use electricity, or to use it as little as possible? That would make a huge impact, right? In a good way. Great question. Let's go over to Mrs. Remo's classroom. Do you guys have a question over in Missouri?
Maybe. Okay. How long does it take to make a Ooga Ooga?
To make one? I only arrived, well, when I went to Indonesia, we were doing a lot of film work for our Komodo dragon program and all of this stuff. And I arrived only about 3 or 4 days, or no, I think a week. I arrived a week before, and I started to see preparations then. But yeah, I think it goes for multiple weeks leading up, especially the larger ones. It's going to be completely depends on the community. Imagine think about like you guys, when you have parades, like a homecoming parade or Christmas parade in your homes, your communities. If you've ever built a float before, it takes a while, right? You do that a month, 2 months, weeks leading up to it. So yes, it's going to take some time to put these together. Great questions there. Mrs. Lancaster's classroom wants to know, what language do they speak? Well, Balinese is the language on Bali. And then there's multiples. So there's a common language in Indonesia. Most, like for example, like there's Balinese, there's Javanese on Java. there's multiples in Java. And then there can be some very, very remote languages as well. So most people in Indonesia are at least bilingual, but most people speak even more than 2 languages, especially if they're studying something like an international language like English or Mandarin or whatever they may be studying in school. Okay, Charles Classroom, how long well, they want to know how long does it take? All right, can you give toys as offerings? You could. The way that Mr. Oka explained it to me is you can give whatever you want to receive in life. That's what you would give. So if you gave like a little Hot Wheels car, it would have to fit on an offering, right? So whatever you give is what you hope to return. Because I asked him, can you give money? He was like, yes, you could give money. I did not personally see anyone giving money on there, but he said he's known it to happen. And yeah, so you definitely could. Let's go over to Mrs. Tompkins' classroom. Go for it.
My question is, what happens if you leave the house on Nyepi Day?
Well, you'll be encouraged to turn around and go home. So you'll be basically, they'll tell you to go back to your hotel. And so you're not allowed to walk around. You're not allowed to go out to the beaches. Like we learned in our fun facts from our folks over in Missouri, I think, you're not allowed to go surfing during Nyepi. So if you went out with your surfboard, you left your hotel, there you would be told to go back to your hotel. You're not allowed to walk around and go to the beach and go surfing. There's no stores are open. Everything's shut down. So you're not allowed to do that. Okay. So again, at any point that you have to head out, feel free to head on because we have so many classrooms still hanging with us. We'll show you a couple extra things. One is a pushpa. So this is really interesting to talk about culturally speaking. And some people get freaked out when they go around the world because of their own personal religions with bowing and different things. You have to realize when you go to most areas, and sometimes in the case of, say, a bow, it's like a wave, it's like a hello, it's a thank you, it's a respect thing. It has nothing to do with, I think this person is a god. So in Indonesia, or in Bali, they do something called pushpa, and Mr. Oka is going to show us how to do a pushpa.
Very simple way. So, Balinese believe the first God is their father and their mother. Because 2 elements of life get together.
I noticed in Balinese or they put their hands together.
They call pushpa.
Pushpa?
Pushpa means man, woman. Right? Let's say, very simple way, right? This is a hammer, this is a chisel. So who make the carving? Who born the baby? Yeah, the chisel. So simple. You put this together, right? For respect, is in behalf your from your male side and your female side. You put this together in your heart. You say thank you because close to your heart. That's between you, us. Mm-hmm. And then you want to thank your teacher or your father. You put them in your face because this is from you. This face is from you from your parent, from your teacher who giving you knowledge, life, protect you here. So 2 open eyes, you look in the eyes and say this one. And you look in the eyes and say thank you to your teacher. And then to my father who already passed away, to your ancestor, you put in your forehead and you close your eyes because you think about them. Very simple. And then beyond, this is unknown, we call it. That's why in the temple we pray on top of your head. This on top of your world. This connect to all your body, this thing, right? And you say, thank you. Mean, if you believe in it, God exists. If you don't believe it, it's nothing there. Mm-hmm. So that's why empty there.
All right. So that is known as pushpa in Bali. So just review. So you can, again, this is just simply a sign of respect and saying thank you. So if I wanted to turn to my neighbor, if you wanted to turn to your best friend and say thank you, you could put your hands together by your heart. That's how you would talk to someone, one of your peers. You would say thank you with a little bow. If you were going up to your parents or your teachers and you were saying thank you, teacher, you would put your hands together and hold it up in front of your face, but not in front of your eyes. And that's a higher level of respect. So you would say, thank you, teacher. If you wanted to talk to your ancestors that have passed away. Say if you visit their gravesite or something, then you close your eyes, hands go in front of your forehead, and then you would say thank you to your grandparents, your parents, whoever you're going to see. And then when you're talking to your God, that's when you are lifting your hands way above your head and your eyes are closed. So those are the 4 different levels of pushpa. So it's going to be your peers, someone with high respect, people beyond, people that have passed away, your ancestors, and to the gods. So that's how you would pray to the gods, with your hands high above your head. And so again, that is known as pushpa. All right, well, thank you everyone that's come along with us today. We'll learn one last thing as we head out for the ones that are still with us, and that's how to say thank you in Balinese. So let's go back to Mr. Oka, and he's going to tell us how to say thank you and goodbye.
Can you tell us, teach us how to say goodbye in Balinese?
Oh, well, suksmo. Suksmo.
Suksmo?
Like, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Suk means inside. Suksmo.
Suksmo.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So everyone, remember that pushpa. So we are talking to each other as friends here. So we're going to keep that by our heart, and we're going to say suksmo. All right, bye. Suksmo, guys.
Thank you.